Welcome everyone to round 2 today at the Akashic Academy Live. I have one of my favorite people on the planet, someone that I look up. Not only do I look up to you, Kai, but I also really enjoy being an oracle in your life for you and your wife. I'm going to tell a little behind the scenes story that not everybody knows about you and your family. But I'm so happy you're here. So happy that you're coming to talk to my crew today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm gonna get my turn to tell everybody what I love about you, but you go with your behind the scenes first.
All right. Well, I'm going to share with everyone your bio because your bio is so beautifully written, but then I'm going to share with them some behind the scenes too. But for everybody who's joining in today, here's what Kai and I are going to be breaking down. We're going to be talking about the divine masculine energy. If you have ever been present to your problems, your challenges, and you felt like, holy crap, this is bigger than me, I want you to know you're right. There is an epic, galactic, planetary storyline happening here that's affecting every single person on the planet. And it looks like the imbalance of the divine masculine and divine feminine energies. The last time that we really experienced harmony was back in ancient Egypt. And then when the goddess energy, the matriarch of ancient Egypt, fell, and the masculine energy, the patriarch, took over in a wounded fashion. We have been experiencing wounded masculine energy, wounded feminine energy, and we have been on, oh, my whole body's buzzing, a bigger quest collectively to figure out how to balance, harmonize, and heal these energies so we can truly experience the God, goddess nature that is inherent within each one of us as human beings. And my brother Kai here, I'm going to pull up his bio. I'm going to read you everything that he's been up to in his life because I don't want to leave any pieces of this out. Kai is a pioneer in the field of holistic medicine, integrating both ancient alchemy and modern neuroscience into a complete and accessible pathway to unlocking human potential. Holding a master's degree in Oriental medicine, he is an artful teacher of meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong, and mind-body exercise. After spending 15 years studying with masters in the Far East, learning the language, and becoming an insider into traditions that are often inaccessible to Western students, Kai has been transmitting these ancient technologies infused with modern science to thousands of people in live events, group coaching programs, and in one-on-one mentorships. He works with high-achieving entrepreneurs, leaders, visionaries, which I'm going to pause there on your amazing bio. That's where I met Kai. Is I attended one of his live events, and one of his students brought me into the event who said, Emily, I can't wait for you to meet Kai. I can't wait for you to meet Kai. And honestly, I didn't really care about meeting Kai in the event. I needed a getaway from my family. And being this high level entrepreneur and achiever, I just wanted to see how other people were doing live events. So I agreed to tag along and come to this event. I got my socks blown off, you guys. I happened to meet Kai right before he went on stage to run this entire event. It was like meeting Bono before he went on stage. He just had me completely captivated. This event, Pathway to Power, changed my life forever. I became a forever fan of Kai, went on to work with him and other mentors, Alex Moscow, David Mailer, that really helped me go from making not enough money to take care of my family to really stepping into my power. I mean, life-changing, life-changing. And I've also, Kai, since you've been here last, there have been major changes happen in your life. You've gotten married and you've had a baby. And here, this is the behind the scenes that I want to share too. This is one of my favorite stories that I know that they don't know about you. So you all know me as a rebel in the Akashic Records. And there are rules, old school rules, that talk about we have to be 18 years old before we can open our Akashic Records. And I felt like, what about having a planet where we came into this planet with our records open and we were connected into that space? So I had a conversation with Kai and your beautiful wife, Grace. And I said, what would you think about us opening the records of your baby when Grace is in labor, and your son gets to come into the planet with his Akashic records open. You guys tapped in and you're like, yeah, let's do it. Your family, you're one of 2 families on the planet that I know of where your children, your offspring, have come into the planet with their Akashic records open. And I am just so excited to see where this kind of shift, when we create that level of interaction and connection for the future generations of the planet, what that looks like. And I'm excited that you're here with me today, my brother.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you know, like, my favorite thing about you, Emily, is that your energy runs the spectrum from your root to your crown. And you are fully expressed in all those areas. And while that can trigger some people, I really believe it's the medicine we truly need, like full spectrum human beings, crown open, intuitive guidance online, and then that ability to root it down into the belly and into the root, where it becomes present in the things that we say and the things that we do. And we don't have these compartmentalized aspects of ourselves. And the way that you wield that I know, when we get a session with you, as my wife and I came to you in a time of great challenge, that you were able to resonate and feel us on that deepest level of the pain and the reality and all of that, and then also then bring us up to the highest perspective that we could hold. And not only that, and I shared this with you before, not only did you bring that perspective, but you helped us step into the belief of that perspective. Yeah. And it was what we needed. Speaking, oh, hey there, Wolfgang. Sorry, I got a dog friend that just walked in the room, a visitor. Hi, Wolfie.
That's what we do. We call in the energy. My animals are always wanting in when we're live and we're in the frequency.
So anyway, thank you for that. And that's why I love having these conversations with you. And I know we're going to get into whatever we get into today, but I really believe the future is going to require that we have our Akashic records open and our crown open and our ability to channel information that's non-linear, non-logical, non-rational, and then infuse that into our practices, into our peak performance, into, let me just excuse Wolfgang. Why don't you go back in the kitchen, buddy? Come on, you two. Come on, back in the kitchen.
And this is what it looks like to be full spectrum human, by the way, to be parents of not only little people, but also animals, and living in harmony with all of the different species and the consciousness that we have. I'm sorry you had to boot your doggies out. I like their frequency in here, but
no, that's okay. There's 2 of them and it's too hectic. I'm not going to be, they're going to be barking and So anyway, thank you for that. And that's really why I love the work that I do, is to just bring the full spectrum, my perfection, my imperfection, my root and my crown, and to show up.
Well, thank you for that edification and honoring me in the work that I do. I think that it's just a beautiful example of how we get to show up and to support each other. And just like each one of us humans needs to have access to all of our colors, all of our crayons in the box, all of our chakras, the full spectrum, we need to show up for each other in that way too. And there have been times in my life when Kai and Grace and your collective of coaches that you work with have helped me. Like I've shared, I've been able to help you. And I'm so excited to show up today with you and talk about the specific work that you've been doing, because I think that you are going to serve the heck out of my community here today. Because we're going to talk about alchemy. We're going to talk about sexual energies. We're going to talk about the masculine energy specifically, which I feel like for me to come online in the way that you shared and to be able to have access to all of my different energies and to teach others how to do that, I needed a safe presence in the masculine energy. I think the feminine needs that. And when our divine masculine beings on the planet are in a state of woundedness, or they're not standing in their greatness, it can be so difficult for the feminine to get what we need in terms of having the space to be nurtured and to grow into all of who we are. And so I'm excited to talk about that too, because I know men have such a special role here on the planet, and they need leaders to show them how to step into their greatness.
Yeah, they really do. And I think the starting point is that when I got back from Asia and I had placed myself in a lifestyle and a container that was deeply transformational, and to be frank, it didn't require a lot of willpower from me. Like I got myself there. I found my teacher, which took like a year to find the right teacher, and then I just stayed. And this group of students formed of foreigners and local people, and we learned the language, and the training got deeper and deeper and deeper. And during this time, every year for probably 5 years in a row, our teacher would say, okay, it's time to do our 100-day cycle. And it was usually in the fall or the winter, and leading up to the Chinese New Year. And we would take 100 days, and he would say, don't have sex, don't eat spicy food, don't ejaculate. We're going to go away to the mountains for like a 10 or 15-day retreat, which was a big deal for him to leave his family in the city and be with us. And those became my favorite 3 months of the year.
That is, I think that is, I was going to say virtually unheard of, but I'm going to take virtually out and just say it's unheard of in American modern day society.
Right. We have sober October, we have no fap November. And so there is a whole movement of men that are learning
it's coming back. Okay.
Yeah, how good it can feel to take alcohol off their plate, to take masturbation off their plate, and just see what happens. So there are movements in our culture. I just know that it wasn't optional for me. It wasn't. I wasn't in pain and needing it, and I didn't avoid it. I looked forward to it, and I got to witness the benefits. Now, in the case of that experience, and what I aim to recreate for my clients and for the tribe of men that I lead, is it wasn't difficult because I had a group of brothers around me. It wasn't difficult because when we went up to the mountaintop, there was this beautiful flute music that the Taoist monks would play in the morning, and we had morning training and midday training and evening training. So there was no boredom of conversation, of deep practice, of community, of accountability. It was beautiful. It was enjoyable. And it was a nice break from urban Chinese life, which is really busy, really hectic, a ton of energy, a lot of attention. But what I got from that when I got back to the United States and I started to settle in and I reconnect with my group of brothers, is I noticed in myself and in my brothers, even the ones that I had tremendous respect and admiration for, even the ones that were leaders and teachers to me in certain ways, whether it was their medicine, their clinical practice, their herbalism, I noticed that there were these masks that we wore, masturbation, alcohol, sugar, caffeine, and cannabis. And I noticed that most of my closest brothers, who I consider very high performing, high integrity men, went in and out of integrity with those masks, those ways of coping with the modern world and the stress and the mixed expectations put upon men. And when I realized that, and I looked at my own relationship with those things, which at times was out of balance, I realized that, wow, we need this 100-day thing.
We totally need this 100-day thing. And I'm with you. And I think anybody out there who is willing to get honest with themselves for a second can find in one of, what do you say, masturbation, alcohol, sugar,
caffeine, and cannabis.
Caffeine and cannabis.
Yeah.
There's definitely imbalance. I'm right now, Kai, you're not going to be happy with me for this one because my adrenals are probably jacked. But I have found the best cold brew coffee, and it's concentrate. It's like a toddy concentrate. It's supposed to be watered down. I water it down with a splash of oat milk.
Wow.
I know. So there are definitely places out there where we all get to realize we're out of balance. But help me and help everyone else out here connect the dots. So when we're out of balance in one or more of those places, what's the impact? Like, how does that ripple into our daily lives?
Well, I mean, first of all, I just want to start out by saying there's no shame or guilt that's of any value here, because that just keeps us locked in. Number two, our biology And the world we live in is a complete train wreck in terms of we are programmed to look for the shit that's going to go wrong. It's called negativity bias. We are programmed to crave sweet foods, which were the least poisonous and the most nutritious, right?
Mm.
We are programmed in the case of pornography and masturbation that's going to dump 200% more dopamine into the system than we could ever get with our actual sexual partner, because of the nature of the visual cortex and the choice and the variety and the kink, that deeper and deeper layers. So the first thing I want to say is, and social media, which taps into our another deepest need, which is approval and the need for connection. And so all of these things combined with the multitasking, I mean, we're fucked. Like we're set up. And I call that the triangle of the thieves, which is the world is set up. Literally, the most brilliant minds and the largest amounts of money are spent through our smartphones, our computers, our televisions to grab our attention, to take it down a pathway, and then to influence our behavior. And because we're distracted, because of multitasking, we get more overwhelmed easily. And the more overwhelmed we are, the more we run fight or flight, the more tired we get. And that triangle, distraction, overwhelm, and fatigue, will, as you've known at times in your coaching practice, at times in your balancing your career with your parenting, etc., like it feels hopeless and it feels like there's no end. And so the exit strategy that many of us use is the mask, because we can get a temporary relief from this cycle, but it doesn't put us into the other cycle, which is energy, clarity, and focus, which is the tip of the spear that we want to have.
So good. Hey, everybody, I want you to send some love, likes, hearts across the screen if this is resonating with you. If you are beginning to connect the dots and notice the overwhelm and how you check out from the overwhelm and how all of these things just keep you running on the hamster wheel, that's huge. And I want to know that this is landing. So send us some feedback across the screen. I love it. All right. So we talked about the problem. We talked about the impact of the problem. What would you say is the cause of this problem, Kai?
Well, like the cause, I would say, is our biology and its collision with our modern complex culture. I think that's the cause. The other cause would be to turn to the work of Brene Brown and say, why are we the most overweight, in debt, medicated, addicted group of U.S. citizens in history, with all our knowledge and all our nutrition and all our new age downloads and all our open-mindedness and all our forward thinking and political correctness and transgender, all this amazing developments. Why are we so unhealthy? Because in Brené's work, it comes down to shame and guilt. And when we feel ashamed, when we feel guilty, we feel like there's no one we can trust. We can't share our true feelings because if we're vulnerable, we'll be judged, we'll lose love. Goes back to shadow work and childhood. And so it's much easier to smoke, drink, masturbate than it is to find someone that we can really be vulnerable with and find that true human connection. So I would say it's the lack of community, the lack of true tribe.
Yeah.
And then the second part is there's a lot of material out in the social media sphere right now about mastering our nervous systems. There's a lot of talk about how we can no longer do personal development from the neck up. We got to do it from the neck down. Yeah. I'm 100% behind that. The other part is no one has taught us how to defragment our nervous system. No one has given us the tools to say, hey, you could masturbate and fall asleep because you just dumped your most precious hormonal reserves out. And now you're truly tired and you're going to wake up tired and you're going to wake up with brain fog. And you're going to wake up with lower testosterone. By the way, I'm not going to get controversial here, but for better or worse, for women, it's the opposite. For most women, the tantric path or the path of developing sexual energy is to have their pleasure pathway open, where they're able to experience pleasure for the sake of pleasure, not from responsibility, in a way that they're fully honored, whether it's self-generated or with a partner. Whereas man's work, because we're external genitals and we give away our most precious fluid, women lose their most precious resources in the menstrual cycle. But the The sexual act is actually healing and generative of energy. But for the man, the ejaculatory reflex, it causes a diminishment in our hormonal reserves, our substrate, our backup energy.
I love the connection you just made, and I had never thought of it that way, of the masculine external genitalia and the feminine internal genitalia and how it's different.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. All right, well, here's why I'm excited, not just because we get to have a sex conversation here with millions of people, but I know you love the Hermetic principles, Kai, and you're super into them. So you talked about this, how much shame and guilt we have, and Brené's work really supports us seeing just how much of it there is. Let's look at the principle of the opposites and how the pendulum swings. What this tells us is that we have a massive amount of unmet potential energy that we get to turn into our highest level of breakthrough. Because like all of this shame and all of this guilt, Kai, my friend here, he's mixing neuroscience with alchemy. Alchemy is when we're taking a dense substance and turning it into something that is very beautiful and potent, the lead into gold, something that is corruptible, and turning it into something that is stable and helpful for us. So all of this guilt and shame that we've mustered up here together as a society, now is the time we get to turn it into our most powerful resource of consciousness, of breakthrough. And I feel like our society is going to take a huge turn in progress forward in medicine, technology, the paradigms for society, how we parent, how we exchange money. When we learn to master this internal, our most primal energy, and we take it from this state of guilt and shame and depression and turn it into this beautiful gold, this power. And I'm so excited because you are on the forefront. You're a pioneer, my friend, in innovating methodology around how to do this, repeatable methodology that we can follow and practice that changes everything.
Right. Right. Because the shame and guilt, first of all, there's wisdom in some of it. It's not all bad. It's a matter of, like, alchemy is sifting through the lead from the gold. So, for example, there can be a sense of shame or guilt around masturbation with ejaculation, not because it's morally wrong, but because you feel temporarily better, but in the long term, all the emotions you're running away from, all the stress, those situations are still there. So this coping mechanism isn't working. So the first level is to just understand that sexual energy is neutral. It's the energy of all life. It's like money. And either you are cultivating it in a way that's making you healthier, stronger. It's opening your heart-brain coherence. It's nourishing the higher level neurotransmitters that we need to function and navigate and be lighthouses in these times of stress, to have nuanced responses, and ultimately to activate that heart-brain magnet that allows us to magnetize to us the circumstances of our life rather than be stuck in 3D, where we just have to work and sweat and effort to get from point A to point B. So when you're leaking that sexual energy just to sleep or just to relax or just because it feels good, by the way, that's another breakthrough in our understanding of men's sexual addiction. Men don't masturbate because they're horny. They masturbate because they want to feel good. They want that dopamine. It's not about just the sexual. It's just that response is just so pleasure rewarding temporarily that it's so hard to break that cycle. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, isn't it our divine right to feel good? I mean, why should there be any shame in wanting to feel good and happy and blissful and okay and inspired and ready to show up on the planet?
Exactly. The only reason we wouldn't feel good about that is if the way we get those pleasurable feelings has us not showing up, or showing up as less than, or in another way, the energy of the root without the heart and without the mind, it doesn't care about time. It doesn't care about moral agreements. The root chakra's energy says pleasure for pleasure. I don't care about any consequences. This is a beautiful being in front of me. Why not just have sex right now? But you come up into the heart and it's like, wait a second, is this going to be a safe container after we make love? Do I have other agreements that I'm breaking to do that right now? So it's like the fire hose down there is pleasure for the sake of pleasure. And that absolutely gets to be harnessed. And we absolutely need places in our life where we have that pleasure pathway open. We just want it to feed and fuel our other goals as well.
So would you say that we need to make a more conscious connection between the root and the heart and the mind?
Absolutely.
How,
Absolutely.
if you were making up an activation for us right now, Kai, which by the way, I do want to let everybody know there's a transmission in Kai's words when he talked about looking at sexuality as something that's neutral. If you saw me breathing that in and receiving that, that's going to it's like dismantle the bomb that so many of us have created in our minds and our fields about just like how distressful and shameful and all these things can be. Like, I've been cheated on before, and I've also cheated before too, by the way. So I've experienced both sides of that. I'll just be really honest with you. But getting cheated on feels so disgusting and terrible that when you talk about sexuality being neutral, there's a part of me that got a lot of healing from that, because there's this old trauma imprint of Emily that still is really hurt by that. And guess what? I invited that karmically because I participated in that myself so that I could feel a completion of what all of that was like. But it's so easy to get attached to the trauma of it. And I felt that releasing. So I just wanted to point out the transmission in Kai's words. Be sure you receive that. And then I want to talk about creating an activation where we can get these different centers connected in our bodies.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it or we can do it, but the activation for the root and the power center, the navel and the solar plexus, which are the areas of the body more associated with food, survival, reproduction, sexual pleasure, and as we get up to the solar plexus, those glands and organs deal with our willpower and our sense of base identity as different from others. So the energy of life often gets gummed up or trapped or kind of monopolized down there. And so the first thing is those intrinsic muscles, these tiny muscles that are inside the body that usually are moving fluids inside. Like, for example, during an orgasm, especially a full body orgasm at the highest level, the man's prostate is going to pulse. There's a bunch of muscles that are going to pulse, that are going to move that energy out of his body. We can learn to invert that flow where we are essentially making love to ourselves, even if there's a partner there. And the energy, rather than an explosion, can be an implosion in a non-violent way. And then that energy will get pushed up, circulated up through known pathways in the cerebrospinal fluid, and it will cause more electrical activity in the heart, more oxytocin, more blood dilation, and of course, it starts to bring more rarefied neurotransmitter materials up into the brain, where we have more of those onboard psychedelic chemicals available to us. That, just like in a medicine journey, if you're sleep deprived, if you're microdosing, if you're whacked out on caffeine, the medicine doesn't have as much to work with in your body because you don't have the storehouse of it. It's no different, it's no different with the sexual energy. So the root activation would be breathing and squeezing and holding and squeezing like a toothpaste tube to squeeze out the fear and the stagnation and all the things that are down in that part of the body.
Will you do some of it for us right now?
Yeah, we can do some of it. Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. Who wants it out there? Send some love, likes, hearts across the screen. Yeah, interact with us here. I'd also love to hear in the comments, what's been your biggest takeaway so far? What's your biggest aha moment? Yeah, we got the yeses coming in.
Okay, awesome.
Okay,
so by the way, this can work for men and women because, and I don't teach this, and nor does my wife teach this, but in the Taoist alchemical tradition, the highest level of female sexual cultivation was to be able to, without any side effects or any problems, to cease the menstrual cycle. so that that blood is not getting used and released, used and released, used and released. Now, the difficulty with that, this is my disclaimer, is that if it's done improperly, if it's done without the guidance of a teacher who has mastery, there's a high propensity for there to be stagnation and stuckness, which is why also the pleasure pathway open for women is so important, because the tendency with guilt, shame, sexual abuse is to get fibroids and stagnant blood in the reproductive area, because there's guilt, because there's shame, because there's lack of safety. The blood congeals, the neurotransmitters congeal, and now you get nodules, you get those different things down there that we don't want. We want free flow of energy without guilt and shame. So for the women, that's the highest level. Now, I've never practiced that. I don't know anybody who does that, other than I know that that's what the ancient women in the Taoist tradition taught. And I believe it's possible. I understand how that's possible. For example, an athlete, a female athlete who loves her sport, like an adventure racer who has done their healing and does this adventure racing, it has low body fat, her menstrual cycle will stop, and it's not unhealthy. Her body is saying, we're alive, we're happy, we're not here to make babies right now, we're here to kick ass at this sport. We need that blood to refurbish the muscles and to be in this performance. Well, if only men could learn that the conservation of that seed and the ability to pull it up can feel as good or better than an external orgasm, and then feel also the benefits, the side effects, then once that happens, a man will never go back. And
what are the benefits and side effects
for the man?
Yeah.
Well, the benefits are going to be increased awareness of the heart and more behavioral flexibility. It's going to be more energy, more motivation, clearer thinking, more connection to the intuition, thicker hair, just less brain fog, everything that comes with. Just imagine, like, you eat a Thanksgiving dinner and all that turkey's in your belly and all your body's energy goes down to digest the turkey, and you fall asleep on the couch because there's nothing to power up here. In the same way, if we're ejaculating every day, eventually the body is so focused on replenishing the seed and the hormonal reserves that we're not as sharp. We're not as patient. And it's both sharpness and softness together. It's behavioral flexibility. And so the side effects, if you're practicing this, but you're in the initial phases, or if you're doing it incorrectly or incompletely, the side effects could be inflamed prostate, frequent burning urination. Sometimes in the process, you'll see a lot of bubbles in your urine. And that just means that the alchemy is incomplete. You know, whether it's the control of the muscles or the intention or the breathing, something isn't at the higher level yet. That would be, but the other side effects of not doing any cultivation at all would be tiredness, lethargy, low willpower, more easily addicted, more easily to fall into other substances because your dopamine drops, your testosterone levels drop. Those would be some of the side effects. So you want to do a little practice?
Yep, I do. I'm going to ask you. Ask you a question too, but I'm going to write it down and I'll ask you later.
All right. So men and women, we can practice this together. Close your eyes if it's safe. Otherwise, on the replay, one hand on your heart, one hand on your navel. Sit up tall. And just close your eyes and notice, where is your energy full, open, clear? And where do you feel heavy, damp, tired, dark? And just notice your overall energy level right now, your overall clarity of focus, your overall level of open-heartedness. All right, and we're going to just take a nice deep breath in through the nose and just fill everything up. And now blow all the air out through your mouth. Let your chin drop to your chest. Relax every muscle in the body and let the navel come all the way back to the spine. Now, when you breathe in on this one, pull up on your pelvic floor like you're stopping your urine. Pull in on your navel and in and up on your solar plexus, and draw the breath up into the heart and brain. Now squeeze and hold all those lower doors and gates. Hold them shut, squeeze them, hold them, and then open the lips and exhale through a tiny pinhole as you release your air. Sit up straight. Feel your feet on the ground, your glutes on the chair. Take 3 deep belly breaths. Inhale, belly big. Exhale, navel to spine. You may notice change in temperature, movement of energy. We're going to do it again. Big belly breaths, full belly. Let it all down and out. Exhale, navel all the way to spine. One more breath. Big belly breath and hold. Lift the breath also up into the chest. And now exhale all your air out through the mouth. Chin to chest, navel to spine, soften everything. When you breathe in, coordinate the movement. Breathe in slowly. Contract the perineum pelvic floor. Pull in the navel and solar plexus. Hold it. Squeeze everything in and up. Breathe in, straighten spine. Now hold it. Pull everything in and up. Squeeze, hold, squeeze, hold. Open the lips. Exhale through a tiny pinhole. Now come back one more time to that belly breath. Big breath in, belly big. Hold for a few seconds, belly's pressurized. Exhale silently, navel to spine. Holding with no air. Begin again. Slow, deep abdominal breaths. Really push everything down and out on the inhale. It's the counter pose. Exhale, navel to spine. All right, one more big breath in. Fill everything up. Belly, solar plexus, chest. Fill everything up. Blow it all out. Relax. Now really squeeze on this one. Breathe in. Shut the lower gate. Squeeze the perineum and the genitals. Bring the navel in and up. As you inhale, squeeze the solar plexus in and up. Bring it all the way in and up. Tuck the chin. Lengthen through the crown. Squeeze. Shoulders back and down. Now hold. Squeeze. Hold. Squeeze. Take a sip through the mouth. Top it off. Swallow it down. Hold. Squeeze. Open the lips. Exhale through a pinhole and continue to squeeze everything in and up. Squeeze. Hold. Now come back to that natural breath. Both hands come down to the belly. Sit up tall. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold in the belly. Notice any shifts or changes in your body, energy, warmth. Notice any changes in the openness of the heart and connection to emotions. And notice any shifts or changes in your mental clarity, your thought process. And then go ahead and rub your belly. And feel free to share in the comments what you experienced. So Emily, we'll start with you. What did you notice?
Woo! I noticed a lot of color moving in my field. So before I even translated cognitively what was happening inside of my body, I noticed a lot of energy essence becoming very present to me. I saw color, I saw shape, I felt tingling and sensation moving in my body. The release of guilt and shame, so palpable. It's like it's not even present there in my field anymore. I also there this one's interesting. It's almost I felt like proud of myself and proud of all of us for working these our chakras and different gates as you call them. And I felt this remembrance of ancient knowledge that was connecting me into these centers, and I felt like there was a release of intelligence happening inside of my body that it's hard for my monkey mind to put words on, but I felt it happening inside of my body, and it made me really happy. I feel happy. Beautiful. And I feel, I would say, about zero stress right now in my life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is just one of the most basic. I mean, and nothing is new. That whether we take yoga or the Hermetic Jewish tradition of the Kabbalistic tradition or the Gnostics or the Taoists, it's all the same thing. It's all about raising energy up the spine and opening the heart and brain and turning back on the magnetic field of the human body so that we can be in this world and not of it.
What'd you say, turning on the magnetic field of the body?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when we do this, we pull, if the negative pole, negative, by the way, has nothing to do with bad or not good, or negative just meaning like a battery. There's one end that's negative, one end is positive. And so that negative end tends to get the heavy, damp accumulation. And so the positive now has less battery, less energy up and out. And so when you squeeze and pull that energy in and up, you are going to feel more uplifted. You are going to feel happier. Your tube torus magnetic field is turning on,
Yeah.
and you're becoming more biomagnetic. So it's going to be less work and more synchronicity.
Yeah, I feel my heart's getting warm too.
Yeah, beautiful. I saw those comments. That was really
Yep, Dave
nice.
in the house feeling that warmth. Yeah.
Dave G in the house.
Yeah. I'm noticing like that is the after effect and like the layers of this as I'm going through it. Yeah, my heart is getting really warm right now. And I also feel like there's nowhere to be, there's nothing to do, there's just presence. And I noticed that when I do have a big to-do list of things to get done, if I can show up with that energy of there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to be, there's just being present with whatever's in front of me right now, a massive amount of creativity will flow through me. And I can get those things done, checked off of the list in ways that if I'm not in this kind of a flow state, take me forever.
Right. And that's been one of my challenges in this new year, is that the people I work with that help me with my business and my outreach, we're always looking to find people's pain points and help relieve the pain points that people have. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to teach a 2-month container on sexual alchemy, it could be get over porn and addiction, and the guilt and shame, learn to use your sexual energy to heal diseases that are going on in your body. Use it to restore passion and intimacy to your relationship. You feel unworthy or unlovable because you can't satisfy your partner, because you can't last long enough, or you can't get hard enough, or whatever that is. I could mark it all about the pain. Or I could say the flip side is also true. If you learn these breathwork practices, these heart coherence practices, these brain nourishing practices, you will be able to get more done in less time. And what I heard you say, Emily, which I'm 100% constantly in the need of taking my own medicine, like there's a shitload of responsibility on my plate, family, how, with my everything. And the reality is, the sooner I drop the story around it and get into, or create a story that's compelling, and then get into my peak state, the sooner I'm enjoying my life again. And that's what I heard you say. After these practices, the story fades away and you just step to what needs to be taken care of, and you do it with your wit and your charm and your panache and all that. And so
thank you. And that's the way I want to roll. And here's the other thing is that I don't judge myself. All of those pieces that you shared that you appreciate about me, and I know that a lot of the audience does too. If I'm really honest with you guys, that's where my negative self-talk comes in, and I start like second guessing myself, and I can't believe that I said that or showed up that way. And I'm learning to firewall those thoughts and just fully show up in presence and whatever comes through in that moment. And the more of this kind of work that I do on my physiology and my neurochemistry, the easier that is to do. But if I'm being totally transparent, it still affects me, the negative self-talk, and this cures it for me.
Right. Beautiful.
I love that.
And yeah, and that's, those of you that are listening, one of the phrases that I've kind of coined in my work is that for so many years, especially when I got back from China, I was under the hypnosis of Chinese culture and yogic culture, which would say, if you don't have 90 minutes, then you're not really a yogi. If you don't have 2 hours to do your practice of breath work and whatever, you're not really ever going to get the benefit out of it. And there is a place and a perspective where there's a level that's true. However, for years when I got back, it took me years to go through all the practices that I had learned and to begin to extract the functional components, the functional breathwork techniques, the sequence of muscle squeezings, the stretches, and all those things. And I realized that I'm way better off doing something than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, if I could identify the minimum dosage that still got me the most benefit, I could microdose those practices into my day. So it's like, if we're at work and we want to just do that breath work for 5, just set a timer, put a soundtrack on, do 5 minutes of that breath work. I promise, whatever situation that you were facing, whatever life circumstance, you will have more resources to face it, more perspectives that you have access to.
Yes, 100%. I'm getting just some downloads coming in right now that I'd love to share around time. And I read somewhere, and I love this. Everyone needs 20 minutes of yoga a day unless you don't have enough time, in which case you need an hour.
Right.
And I agree with you. There is wisdom in that. It's not that that is untrue. And we are at a particular point in our evolution, in our time-space continuum, where we are moving faster through the galaxy than ever before. Time is actually speeding up. And these practices, as they came in ancient times, the only reason that the wisdom even landed here on the planet is because there was a being who was showing up present to it and channeling it through. As time continues to progress forward, we need innovation on even these old practices. Everything shifts and changes and innovates. And so as we are at a point in the time-space continuum where time's moving faster, we need these kind of biohacks that allow us to get more done in less time. So I'm not saying that the ancient wisdom of you have to sit on a mountain and meditate for 20 years is bad. But one of the beautiful things that happens through transmission is that we get to help each other speed up. We get to timeline crunch. We get to stop being in the old cycles of time and create new time when we have masters like Kai who are present and pioneering this work, willing to channel them in and to share them in this way. So thank you. I think that the guides are cheering for you up there, Kai.
Great. I'll take it. I'll take all the support that you got from me this year.
All right. So I wanted to ask you a quick question, and then I want you to tell everybody about the opportunity that you have coming up for men. But a lot of this conversation, we talked about men and how the bodies work, and you've given us adaptations for women. But I'm wondering if you would share more of your own personal experience in your life and with Grace. So when you are showing up and fully in this practice, what do you notice is different about her? Because Grace is powerful high priestess. How does her medicine shift and change versus when you are wearing one of the masks or you are more out of alignment with your own medicine and the work that you're doing? Like, how does it affect your high priestess?
Yeah. Well, in the men's work that we do in Man on Fire with David Mailer, man, it's all about the long game. And we say to most men who come into the program and they're in a relationship, we say, unless you have an absolute soul knowing, don't make any decision about your relationship for a year. Do the year's journey with us, do the work, clear yourself somatically, open up to higher level energies, because you will never know what your woman is capable of until you're showing up at your best. And I would say, for the most part, with a kid who's 17 months old, with a daughter, with all of the challenges that are in front of me and all of the sacred responsibilities I have, I can't really afford to masturbate or to drink alcohol very much, or to have excess caffeine or yo-yo between the stimulation of caffeine and the masking of cannabis. All of those things can be celebratory. They can be healthy. They can be in integrity with our life and our values. But most of them, in times when you really need to show up at your best, most of them, there's a version of you that doesn't need those, that's better off. Mm-hmm. So how does Grace show up when I'm cultivating this energy, when I'm raising energy up? The more loving and compassionate, the more present I can be, the more productive and badass and sweet and supportive and confident she is in her life. And then when I'm tired, when I'm deficient, if I'm leaning on one of the areas of the mask to get by, then there's going to be more strife between us, more shortness, more bitchiness, because she's not getting my full presence. And she doesn't even feel the safety to ask me for it. So what it's going to come out as some kind of biting feminine energy, because I'm not in the place of her. She doesn't feel like I'm in a safe place to like say, hey, I really need your presence right now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I do see we've got a lot of men on the broadcast today, which is really exciting. And the mass majority of the audience members here in the Akashic Academy are women who are ancient wisdom keepers, and they're returning this wisdom and intelligence to themselves so that they can share it with the planet, and they can return this energy of the high priestess, the goddess that fell in ancient Egypt. And I know that many of them get distracted in their relationships because they're still in a place where the masculine and the feminine is out of balance. So if you are one of those women in a relationship and you see where the growth and the higher consciousness and the cultivation of greatness in your man can support you, I want to invite you to really listen to this opportunity that Kai wants to share, because it definitely is going to be right for some of the men out here listening. But women, we are the intuitive leaders in our family, and we can lead our men to a state of health and greatness and balance and strength so that their warrior can grow and really step up and protect us the way that we want to. And I want to encourage women, the masculine, it's been out of balance for a long time, but everything on this planet is birthed through the divine feminine, including the healing of the masculine energy. So if you are connected with a man who's not showing up fully in your life, rather than writing him off, I'm going to encourage you to listen and invite him into a practice, an experience like what Kai is going to share with you all.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to remember that there's so much trauma in the masculine, in the feminine, in the different races and the minority cultures that carry intergenerational trauma. And that trauma is not going to be healed by criticism, by shaming, by guilting. Men, one of the stands that I am in this world is to help love men back into remembering who they really are.
Yeah.
And so any man that gets referred or wants to come check out what I'm doing or have a call with me, look, I'm going to help him remember who he really is, because the truth is, underneath those masks, those addictions, that numbing and escaping, that's where your badass primal power is. And it's just that no one has trained you how to transform that power into your workouts, into you fiercely loving your queen. Because the reality is, in my world, in a power relationship with a man and a woman, they must take turns leading and following each other.
Yeah.
There are times that Grace's intuition is responsible for some of the most epic things in our life. And there are times that my steadiness and my boundaries and my structures have brought us into being able to cash in on one of the intuitive synchronistic things that Grace has honed in on without knowing why or how. And so like, we want to follow you, women. We want to be led by your intuitive gift and your connection to the Akashic. We want to be led by that. But we've got to, and other times we want to lead by saying not now, or let's handle these, let's seal up these leaks and then do that thing. Like I think it's got to be a give and take.
So what do you and Grace do together in terms of practice, and what do you do apart? This is Patty's question here.
Patty, is that in our service to others or in our own relationship? I'm just curious. I'll answer. I think you're asking about our own relationship.
So that's what my feeling was too.
Yeah. So we've started going to the gym together. We've started being each other's mastermind in each other's businesses, helping each other really see the gifts that we have to offer, talking each other through imposter syndrome, and helping each other see where, no matter how imperfect we are, there are certain gifts that we own. We do Qigong practice together. And I think our greatest thing together this year has been, we've taken sugar out, we've taken alcohol out, we're supporting each other in clean eating. And Grace has an incredible system that Emily actually helped pull out of her, and it's called Crystal Keys. And it's a combination of tapping, uh, meridian stretching, breath work, and affirmations. And I have gotten with her some nights and said, Grace, take my pulses, tell me where my blocks are. Let me do the crystal keys. And what I always knew was beautiful, channeled, so kick ass. Now I know that it actually works.
Yeah.
Like it works. Those affirmation works, the tapping work, it's incredible. And then I'll feed Grace's medicine back to her. What are your blocks? And then we do her tapping. And I'm like, baby, this shit works. This is profound. This is your collective wisdom of your entire life. So I think the other thing we do is we've started to, it's taken us years. We're finally to the point where we can consume each other's gifts, receive each other's gifts. What do we do separately? Sometimes we sleep separately. Sometimes we go to the gym at separate times. Sometimes we call each other forward and say, hey, I'm detecting that there's some tension in you. I'm detecting that there's some, dark energy. Can you go move that, please, on your own? I don't want to be responsible for that right now. Can you go do your practice now? And I'll go do my practice, and we'll come back together and we'll both be uncharged. And then we can solve some problems. So we do that separately. We sometimes sleep separately, to take turns getting sleep without the baby's interruptions. Yeah, that's it. And sometimes we work out differently. Sometimes I'm going to do more weights and she's going to do more dancing.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing too about just another great example when Grace began to really curate this unique practice and methodology around her crystal keys that is available. Everyone's unique medicine is available for them in the Akash. It's one of the beautiful things about being able to tap into this God mind. But Kai, you've done the same thing in your own way by creating this experience coming up in Lake Arrowhead, where this is your unique medicine that you are channeling through from higher mind that is needed right now here on the planet. And you can't find this anywhere other than with Kai Van Bodhi and going with him into this experience in Lake Arrowhead.
Yeah, the experience that's coming up in this later this month is called The Hearth, Mastering Sexual Energy, Men's Sexual Energy. And it's a 2-month container. We're going to have some Zoom calls in a couple weeks here. Then we're going to have a 4-day amazing initiation in Lake Arrowhead at a beautiful resort. And then there's going to be calls after. And we're going to be giving men the tools they need to make this the best year of their life, to tap in to the emotions that they may have been running from their whole life, to become more aware of any place that there's addictions or addictive behavior, and to absolutely come out of the weekend having transformed that into peak performance, primal power, energy, intimacy. And really, one of the ways I say it is like, what I'm really good at is helping a man who has what they want in 1 or 2 areas of life, but seems to have 1 or 2 areas that are always being borrowed from. This program, this 2-month coaching container, is to give them the tools they need to really have it all. So they're full spectrum. The intimacy of their relationships, their health and vitality, their income and impact. I'm really concerned and focused on helping men make more impact on the planet in a beautiful way that brings balance back. And then, of course, all of that is driven by their personal growth, spiritual growth, and peak performance practices. And I really think no men, especially now, the bar is higher. As our millennials grow up and as our wise elders become more youthful in their use of technology and messaging, we're just getting that you're not going to be happy unless you have all areas of your life at an 8 out of 10. It's no longer kicking ass in the money game and having shitty relationships. That doesn't fly anymore.
It doesn't. Kai, give us a couple of your favorite success stories of men that you've worked with to move all areas of their life to between an 8 and a 10.
Yeah. Like I recently had a man come out who was going through a divorce, and really beautiful guy from the East Coast, and a lot of confusion around business decisions, confusion around the divorce, issues in the relationship. And, we did some coaching calls leading up. We came out and he worked with me one-on-one, and we had a powerful breakthrough. And he really, for the first time in his life, was able to say that he loves himself and mean it.
Mm.
And we were able to take the wounded child in him that had developed certain habits and behaviors like sarcasm, humor, judgment of others. We helped him to love that little boy through an experience back into life, and his heart opened. And now the way he experiences children, the way he's navigating this divorce, there's so much peace, there's so much open heartedness. And we turned what was like a giant fence that nobody could get around into a permeable gate that could keep out things with healthy boundaries, with love, but could let in love. And he's still firing on all cylinders. He's making business decisions that are probably going to lead to double or tripling of his income in the next 6 months. So that's one story recently. And I've helped a lot of men in the alchemy of their life integrate these peak performance practices and say, take a guy who's a business coach in New York, has a really niche audience, is a super talented business coach, but he was only doing like 5K months at best. And then after 6 months of working together, he was doing 10 to 15K months.
Yeah.
And he was more in alignment. He had sealed some leaks inside himself. He had more authenticity and certainty on his enrollment calls, more energetic integrity. So there's been a lot of those results for coaches or healers, helping them take their gifts to the next level, own their value at the next level, not because their bank account's going to get fatter, but because their impact on the planet is going to be multiplied. That's what I care about.
Yeah, I want you to put your hand on your heart and just drop in and get really clear. Is this me? Do I need this? Or do I know somebody who needs this? Have I been put in the presence of this interview and Kai today because there's somebody in my life who is asking for this kind of transformation? And if so, I just want to place the burden on you. Reach out to Kai. You have been praying for the answer. You have been meditating for the answer. You have been journaling. Here it is. It's in front of you. And now it's time for you to make a decision and take a step forward in getting what it is that you want and making the shifts and changes in your life. And I know that this can be the scary part, but this is the part where I want to encourage you, do it right now, because everything will change from this moment that you decide to reach out.
Yeah, and I love your tribe. There is a point in the very near future where we're going to collaborate on some sacred site activations, because the earth needs an upgrade to its Christ consciousness grid and field. But in the meantime, for your tribe, as soon as this is over, I'm going to drop a Calendly link, and anybody, man or woman, who has someone in their life or is that person who thinks this may be the type of training they need, I might be the personality and the soul that they need, I'm happy to hop on a call for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I promise to listen deeply to what you want and what you're up to, what your challenges are. I will share a breathwork technique to change state. And if there's a fit for us to support each other, or for me to support you in what you're creating this year, or support your man, then I will make that invitation powerfully and cleanly if it's there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing so much time with our audience here today, Kai. I know that there are lots of responsibilities that you get to show up to with your family and your business and your clients. So thank you for taking time out to share with this audience. I know that we attract a very high level conscious being and somebody who really wants to expand. And so it's an honor for me to bring them the best in the business who is innovating when it comes to this kind of work. So I'm just happy to share the time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Can I share one more thing?
Absolutely.
So I shared with you that my best friend here in Lake Arrowhead, his name is Lucas Hausler. He did this beautiful workshop on Qigong and Hermetics, like something that I'm new to in a certain way, Hermetics, and something that I love and has been a long time passion of mine. And the beauty was that using the Hermetic principles and understanding that from our solar plexus down, there's a lot of earth and water element. And we were using, as Lucas shared, the engine of song. Song is this Chinese word that translated simply means relax. but
Mm.
no Chinese word means one thing. And when you go a little deeper into the character, it means open, relax, release, transform. And so there we are this weekend, and we're using the engine of song in standing postures, in sitting postures, and we're starting from the root, and we're songing open, release, relax, transform, and
Mm.
we're allowing the earth and then the water to transform until we get up to air and fire. And where he took us was up into the Akash, where there's this undifferentiated non-dual light from which we can create anything. Joe Dispenza would call it the 5D. The Taoist alchemists would call it the Wu Ji. And what I loved was that, similar to what I'm teaching, that until we transform the earth and the water that's down there, it's so hard to, even if we're open to the spiritual realm, it's so hard to ground it
Yeah.
into the tissues and the adrenals and the womb and the ovaries where we need it the most, or it's so gummed up down there we can't connect.
Mm.
And I just want to say that, like, that's the beauty. I think that's where our work begins to really start to intermingle, is where when we solidify our root, our navel, our solar plexus, when we milk it, we open it, we train it, we stretch it, all of a sudden the interchange with the Akash
Yeah.
and all those divine solutions that can absolutely change the time on this planet, they start to become our new baseline of how we
Mhm.
operate.
Yes.
So.
Whoo, you're getting me really fired up now. I love that, obviously, so much. And again, I want to put the burden of responsibility. Burden might not be the right word. I feel like I'm
Opportunity.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But you talk about calling forward the new paradigms of this planet. We're the ones. I go first. You be the leader. We're not waiting for the government to do this.
Right.
We're not waiting for, we are the ones who need to self-initiate to call forward these solutions. And if you're not willing to do the work yourself, don't sit around and blame and complain about the state of humanity. We must do this work within ourselves. And this is a great opportunity to lean into it at a much higher level.
And Emily, just like I deserve and need and require the support of my coaches, your support at times, my wife's support, I also, the other side of your invitation and your challenge and you placing that burden of responsibility on them, is that for many of you that are listening, men and women, the greatest shift you get to create is that you deserve support,
Yes.
because you're not going to give your gifts at the highest level without support. That's not some new age shadow marketing technique. We were born to be in tribes where the wise shamanic elder and these practices were passed down. And part of the trick and the challenge of this time in history, we have been separated from our tribes. We've
Mhm.
been brought up by mothers and fathers who were not initiated, and we're in a broken non-wisdom tradition lineage. And people like Emily and myself, through pain and adventure and willingness and quite a bit of money and time, have decided, like, I would rather spend my time, energy, and money to initiate myself
Yeah.
and to reconnect to some wisdom traditions than I would float around out here. But now we land back in our societies, having those initiations, having the wisdom traditions behind us and through us. And then we're here to help you have the support you need and the wisdom you need so you can freaking show up at your best. So you can have your vision and your dream come into reality while still having an epic relationship and still being healthy, still having money in the bank. It's time for us that care to truly have it all. No more sacrificial lambs, no more borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Like, this is the time to have it all. And that's the core energy in the system that I teach, the pathway of power. It's got to be now and then benefit. It's got to be win-win-win.
Yep.
So,
And it's accessible. Where it's been hidden and buried for a long time, it's not. It's accessible if you want to step into it. And again, to make the neural pathway connection of how you access this, you get on a call with Kai. Kai, you're going to put the link in the comments for everyone. Is that the idea?
yeah, I can put it in. Yep.
Cool. All right.
Can I do it when we end the show? We end this. I'll go back in and drop it in. Anybody that wants to have a call, just say I'm in. And I will go and respond and drop the link in there. Does that work, Emily?
That works for me.
Okay. Awesome.
That's how you get a hold of Kai. Type "I'm in" right now, and Kai will circle back with you and make sure you have the opportunity to book a call and discuss more opportunities to work with him and really step into your power and your best. I'm so excited. I love what is shifting on the planet right now. Thank you, my brother, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you back here again next time.
Thank you so much, Emily.